keeping. I hope you're doing all right. So this week we're going to take a look at the map that I've been working on for the next book in the Woods series. And the next book is really going to be very much a source book. So it's going to be a lot of background. It's going to be some sort of snapshots, if you will, of life in the parts of the mortal realm that are featured in the game. There will be some more rulesy stuff in it. There'll be a couple more warbands lists. There'll be like a mini RPG adventure. There'll be a bit more battle game things, but they will be very much second fiddle to the background. And one of the things that I really want to do is start exploring the world. So the initial the Woods book, Secrets of Shandisholm, the first edition, had a geographic area that looked, it's about that. This area in the middle, it's a few miles square really, and it's got some hills around the outside and some woods, a little bit of wetland water there, some marshes, and the mountains are a bit further off, and it was looking very closely at the people that lived in this area. With the second edition, that expanded to essentially this area here. Oh, sorry, I should say the first edition had one supplement, which was Barrow Ring Burning, which has now been reissued for the second edition, and that took place over here. That's the little colony where that happened. Marbenham is there, Tikarek is there, and Droghad Moor is this place here, and Kingsdown is here. So a bit of a distance away. And so then the second edition rulebook filled in those things, took into account the stuff that we were writing for the goblins and the Haldra and the gnomes over here with Mount Silence. And then the second supplement for second edition Mythic Heroes, or Mythic Cycles, introduces the Seven Valleys, which are here, goes into a bit more detail, but not a lot, because the Seven Valleys are kind of mystical. Nobody's quite sure what the geography is. It keeps shifting, so it's not really possible to map, so it doesn't go too much into detail about them. But it also introduces this concept of another kingdom, another area that isn't featured in the map and the main rulebook, and that's the land of Sorrowsfold, which is here to what would be the east. If compass directions were a thing in the woods, they're not. They go, the compass directions are loftwards towards the mountains, deepwards towards the water, dawnwards towards where the sun rises, east, and duskwards towards where the sun sets, which means that if you go further up from the mountains, or if you're standing here, every direction is deepwards, because every direction is away from the mountains towards the sea. So for the ease of compass point directions, we haven't yet progressed beyond that. We've still got a very linear sea, land, mountains stretch. And I don't want to expand much more than this. I want the area to be kind of a conceivable size. So the size of this layout here, this is actually about the same land mass area as Ireland. So it's not a huge area. It's quite large, but it's not. We're not talking sort of Europe continent sized. We're talking quite on a global size, quite small. So it's quite a manageable size to sort of fully flesh out, put the towns in, and work out what the relationships are. Again, I don't want to do that too much, because I want players to be able to have their own ideas and put their own communities into this map. So I want to leave things a bit spread out. But I'm a creative person. I keep coming up with ideas, so I keep wanting to put those ideas on the map. There are no location names on this map. I'm going to do those digitally. And the idea is to use this map in various ways. First of all, to have a large scale map that's possibly also going to be available separately from the book, so you can have it in a larger size. if you're interested in maps, because I love maps. But partly so that I can then break this down into regions, so hilly regions, woody regions, swampy regions, partly so that I can do a named map so you can see where places are in relation to each other. I can do, here's where the leprechauns are, here's where the pixies are, here's where the spriggans are, kind of breakdown by kind of type. And also then I can start putting some campaign bits in if people want to play campaigns that are actually focused in here. In the newsletter I'm going to be doing quite soon, the Cromden Craig campaign, which was written last year, and I sent it out for playtesting, and then lockdown happened. So of course, not many people have been testing it, but I'm going to put it in the newsletter anyway, because I think it will give you a good grounding to play some fun games now that we're able to see people again. And that's based around Cromden Craig, the fortress, which is over here. So I've done this. I've drawn this map, and it is very faithful to both the original Secrets of Shandisholm map, which was, as I say, this section here, and also to the bigger extended map that's in the second edition rulebook. The coastline for which was actually based on part of the Dorsetshire coastline near where I live, where I grew up, where my parents are based. But it's obviously it's changed and it's expanded and it's shifted around. But I wanted to have a very natural, very English-looking coastline as opposed to anything too sort of fantastical. The mountain ranges here, we're talking sort of Welsh mountains here. We're not talking Tibetan, Himalayan. They're not that big as far as mountains go. But you can imagine if you'd never seen the Himalayas, but you had seen Ben Nevis, that would still be quite impressive. That would be quite a big deal. So that's the kind of size of mountains that we're talking about here. And in fact, a lot of the place names are based on English place names, sort of changed and shifted around a bit. And then some of the other place names are based on people that I have known. Maybe they can recognise themselves in some of the names. I don't know. Possibly, if you do, I hope you're flattered by your being immortalised as a place name in the mortal realm. But you might not be. I try not to insult people that way around. And I've drawn this map out. I did it in pencil and then I did it in technical pen. Tried to make the lines black enough, bold enough that I can shrink this down and it will still be visible. It did have some issues with the map in the second edition rulebook, because once that was shrunk down with the textures on the map, it was quite hard to read. So I want to try and keep this one quite visible, quite plain, quite easy to see. Now I've drawn that in technical pen, I've scanned it in. My wife is then going to take this and hopefully put a nice Celtic knot border with some animals and some little folk in around it. And then I'll scan it in again so that I've got that version. And then I will have a go at colouring this in. I'm going to do some inks over here so that hopefully I'll have a bit of a sort of natural looking map. I'm not quite sure yet whether I want to go for a kind of old parchmenty looking map or whether I want to go for a kind of coloured in, various greens and blues and bits and pieces. We'll see. I'll have to have a bit of a think about that. And this map now includes this area of Solrestfold here, with the city of Solrest on the coast here, and the Golden Plains, which are this area of very fertile farmland around here, up to the Black Wastes. And the new book's going to introduce the community that live here. So Solrestfold was an ancient kingdom. The king of Solrest was one of the kings who was called to the meeting at King's Down. If you've read Barrow Ring Burning, you'll know a bit about the the meeting of the kings at King's Down. And while the king was called away, the goblins, because there's another goblin host here. The main goblin hosts are here at Mount Silence, which is where the gnome administrative capital was. But there was another goblin sort of coal mining camp over here in the Black Wastes. And they marched down into Sorrowist and took over command of the kingdom. So there's a very big goblin kingdom now that exists this side of the Murren. This is the Murren River here, and the Murren again is mentioned in Barrowing Burning. That's kind of the border between Talamhlar or Talamhlar and Sorrowist Fold. And not many people this side have been this side, but they might know of the legendary kingdom that's was formerly to the Dawnwood side of them. So we're also going to talk about Lothard, which is this city up here. And I've been wanting to write something about Lothard for a long time. It featured in the first book, but I haven't had enough material. But that's going to get a mention because that ties in with the Golden Goat saga that was in the Mythic Cycles book. So the journey that the heroes from the Mythic Cycles have taken is that they've come from Inglenook, which isn't marked on this map, but it's somewhere in the Seven Valleys here. It's deliberately confusing geography, so marking a place other than Stanclad, which is the major city, which is right at the mouth of the valleys, is kind of pointless because the geography is shifting unless you know it really well. So they came up the Windle Valley here, over the downlands to Jane, and then on from Jane to Icepine Pass here. And we left them, they were at Frondleaf with the leprechauns in the White Wood. Some were going loftwards towards Mount Silence. Others were going to travel on towards Lothard. And Lothard, you can see it's here now. There is an extended distance here. If you look at the map in the second edition book, Lothard appears to be much, much closer. It's almost like this has kind of swung round out, and there's much more distance here. And the reason that I have done that is to try and sort of accentuate how much distance there is between these places. The stories were only kind of half formed when I drew the map for the second edition book, and although most of this geography is the same, the map in the book is slightly more sort of skewed this way, and Lothard is up here. But for the kind of epic journeys that I have in mind, sort of travelling across this way, it makes more sense for there to be a bit more space and a bit more mountainous area up here. I wanted there to be some very definite geographical boundaries that mean that we can't go any further this way, and that's the mountains very much form a border here, the sea forms a border here, the Plain of Dusk, which is this big area over here, and you can kind of get around onto it here, but this is a very barren area. There's not a lot here but rocks, so people don't tend to go that way. And actually the coastline, you can't see it here, but the coastline of Sorrowist Fold sort of swoops up and joins up to the Black Wastes there. So you can't really go much further than that. So that encompasses the world and keeps everything sort of together. It doesn't naysay anything happening beyond. I mean, for example, Varspelt, which is where the Haldra live and operate, that's sort of in this area up the top here. The Booker obviously are sea based, so they're out here mostly, and there's all the underground stuff that goes throughout this area. But I wanted to keep everything contained rather than try and create a whole planet's worth of material or a whole continent's worth of material. Let's try and focus in on this area of land here. So other new things that are coming up that we haven't explored yet. There's places that are named on the second edition map that I think they were referenced in the first edition as well, actually, but in the second edition map they're placed and named. There are cities, no cities really. Lothard and Mount Silence possibly count as cities, that's about it. But there's Holtzmilchig, which is here, so that's getting a feature in the new book. And then the coast path goes around here to Portel and Porthpen. And we're going to be learning a bit more about those. There is this area here. So this is Trow country. Up here, again, that's mentioned in Barrow-ring Burning, that's sat on the edge of Trow country, but Trow country on the maps in Barrow-ring Burning is sort of left as an open, beyond this point there are Trows, we don't know what else. Here I tried to kind of contain Trow country a little bit, so it's contained by the mountains here and by forest here, which still means it has a definite boundary, but this is all very kind of grey area, very anomalous area geographically. You could get lost in this area for months and years and possibly never be found again, because it doesn't really have borders in the natural world, but there needed to be some kind of demarcation to say, okay, this is the extent of Trow country, so that's up here. And then this stretch of woods here, this is where the puka have come from, the puka that come along the Pukelkirch here to Kingsdown in Barrow-ring Burning, and of course their civilization post the events of Barrow-ring Burning will be quite different to how it was before the events in that book, so that will have a bit of a feature as well. And we'll look a bit more at the leprechauns of Fronleith in the Whitewood, and the affairs of the goblins and the gnomes at Mount Silence. So that's what you have to look forward to. I hope this map will be available in pretty and colourful and decorative forms at some point later on. And I hope you're as excited by maps as I am. As you can see, I've done this on two pieces here. You may be wondering about why this is two pieces of paper taped together. That's because I only have an A3 scanner. So I'm going to be painting them essentially as one, but I have to scan them in two pieces. And for books, that's not a problem because this will be hidden, the joint will be hidden by the fold. We'll see how good it looks. I may have to do a bit of photoshopping when it comes to putting it together as a one-piece map, but I do hope to get a large-scale one-piece map out to you for all you lovers of cartography like me, so you can have it on your bedroom wall and familiarise yourselves with all the names and places of the lands of Talamhlar and Solrestfold. I will see you next week. Take care.